Let me see if I remember how to do this. I think we're live. Shout out to the gang. We are back in the building. I gotta make sure my stuff is right. Y'all know what to do. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can hear me. Drop a 1 in the chat if you can see me. Glad to see everybody here on this Friday Eve. Hopefully y'all are doing well. Hopefully y'all are having a great day so far. And welcome back to another YouTube live stream and another episode of the ClassE Show. We're just gonna make it simple because sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes in the afternoon. So it's the ClassE Show. I'm your host, ClassE at patreon.com/ClassEbeats. By the way, the link is in the description as well as in the comments and in the chat. My, oh my, rest in peace to John O'Keefe. Right? We do not want to brush over the fact that John O'Keefe lost his life. The O'Keefe family lost a son. But when it comes to the actual trial of trying to figure out, did Karen Read murder this man, hit him with their car or not? This trial is the gift that keeps on giving. We're going to be talking about Karen Read multiple times today. Not only Michael Proctor, not only Michael Cox, but now we're going to talk federal investigation. Boy, this thing is never going to end. We're going to be talking about Karen Read for the next 2 years, I feel like, with what we've learned lately. So y'all make sure you stay tuned for that. We're also going to be checking out a new trial. If you haven't heard, we're going to be talking about Latoshia Daniels. Shout out to Amy for putting me on to that one. So we've got a lot to get into here in a short amount of time. So let me go ahead and say what's up to the people, man. Shout out to everybody who's in the building. My awesome, amazing Amy is in here, always holding it down. I appreciate you, Amy. Thank you so much for everything that you do. I could mention it here, but it would take up the whole show. I love you. I appreciate you. You really are such a solid foundation to everything that we do here on the show and in my life as well. Thank you. Shout out to Amy. Les Cleaver's in the building. Jay Buckmaster. We got B-Mac is up in here in blue. Spring Flowers is in the building. Good to see y'all. And we got Taco Tuesday is in here as well. Good to see you. Who else did I see? I got Tanya in here. Valerie's in the building. So good to see so many of y'all in here as well. We are going to get right into it, and I'll be saying what's up and good afternoon to y'all as we go throughout the show. I have a couple favors to ask. I say one thing, but it really ends up being 3 things. So the first thing is make sure you say what's up as you're joining the chat. All right, I'll be saying hey back to y'all, and I love seeing everybody and interacting in the chat. This is a very interactive show, so I want y'all to hold it down and say hey. Secondly, if you haven't yet, please make sure you like the video. Likes are free. I beg for likes unashamedly because it takes less than a second to do. It helps us channel out so much. It lets the algorithm know that y'all are enjoying the show, having a good time, and shares the video, the channel, the live stream with more people. So if y'all could, please do that. Thank you to everyone who's done that so far. Over 600 of you, which is amazing. Also, if you're feeling extra generous, you can share the video as well. Just click the share button. You can share it to X. You can share it to Instagram, you can share it to Facebook, and even via text in your group chat. And I will be giving a special thank you to everyone who sends over a super chat as well. We've got a couple, that is the wrong sound effect. Get Kawhi out of here. We've got a couple super chats in here. Shout out to Les Cleaver with the 10 bomb. He says, 1 day closer to Friday, 2 days closer to the weekend. I hear you. He says, I hope each one of you are blessed, healthy, safe, and loved very much. Lord is with you always, even in the darkest time. Praise God. Amen. Shout out to Les Cleaver, always supporting, always stopping by and showing love. Hardest working guy I know. He does not quit. He'll be in here before he goes to work, while he's at work. Well, we won't say that because his boss might be watching. On his lunch break. And he does not miss a beat. And in the comments on the replay too. Les Cleaver, I appreciate your continued support. Thank you so much, sir. We got B-Mac in here. Oh my goodness, celebrating 11 months. Thank you so much, B-Mac. Says good morning, ClassE Amy, and family, excuse me. Happy Thursday. Thank you so much, B-Mac, and thank you for being a member for 11 months. Amazing. I can't believe we've been doing it that long, which is always surprises me. Also, we've got Amy in here as well, doing what she does. That's be amazing, and gifting 5 memberships. If you got a membership from Amy, y'all please do the right thing, do the polite thing, and make sure that you say thank you. All right. She gives you an opportunity to get your name highlighted in that beautiful green. You get an opportunity to check out the members only content, and you can also get instant access to all the videos, the shorts, and the lives, even some of the live streams we drop here on the channel. So make sure y'all check out the members only content, and thank you, Amy, for doing what you do. We've also got Spring Flowers is in here as well with the 5 bomb. Says good afternoon all. Every day is a new beginning. Take a deep breath, smile, and start again. That is right, Spring Flowers. Man, every day is a blessing. what went on 2 weeks ago, yesterday. It's a new day, and we're here for it. And I'm so thankful for people like Spring Flowers who not only support in that way, but have that attitude as well. That's what we need over here. We've got Tanya Johnson, just became a new member. Welcome to the member side, Tanya. Again, make sure you check out all the members only content and the videos we post here as well. And I need to double check and make sure I didn't miss anyone. Excuse me. Shout out to Linda for stopping by. I see y'all in here. We've got Lakota's in here as well. Okay. I think I said what's up to everybody. Let's go ahead and get into it because we have a lot to get into today as always. Shout out to Voice of Reason watching over on X too. Shout out to the X gang. We're also live streaming on Facebook as well. So thank you to everybody that's watching over there. And let's get into it. Before we do, I need some cough deterrent because y'all know, man, this cough has just been, it won't let go of me. I mean, it's almost as bad as the Karen Reed trial. It's just here forever, it feels like. Either way, let's get into it. So we've got some fun updates when it comes to the letter that Alan Jackson wrote asking for the commissioner of the Boston PD to be put on the Brady list. We're going to do a little bit of a rewind. I'm going to tell you guys what happened there. We're going to hear from Michael Cox, and he finally responded to Alan Jackson. He had enough of it, and we're going to listen to what he had to say here. But before we do that, I want to give you a rewind and hear what Michael Cox had to say when he originally found out that his name was being brought up with Officer Dever. His name was being brought up during the Karen Reed trial, and he was not happy about it. If you haven't seen this, check this out.
Your name came up during the recent Karen Reed trial. You got a visit from Officer Kelly Dever. The defense implied that you influenced your testimony. Do you want to respond to that?
I have nothing to do with Karen Reed. Matter of fact, I didn't even know this person was associated with the Karen Reed case. You know, I have an organization full of over 3,000 people, and we support all our folks. And the reality is that, I get information passed on whether people are high or low, and I encourage everyone, right?
And we found out later that that was a lie because there was an email that was shown, and Alan Jackson's going to go over it, that there had been correspondence not only between the FBI and Michael Cox, but Michael Cox knew that Kelly Dever was involved in the Karen Reed trial. Not only that, but shortly after he got an email about Kelly Dever being involved in the Karen Reed trial, he booked an appointment with Kelly Dever. Hey, Kelly, let me talk to you for a second. Bold-faced lie in 4K, Michael Cox. Come on, man.
If you're going to work here and you belong here, then we're going to encourage you. I have no idea what they're talking about with Karen Reed. It had nothing to do with Karen Reed. No discussion about Karen.
Did you tell Officer Dever to do the right thing?
I didn't know she was even associated with that case. So, I don't know. I was struck like, what do I have to do with the Karen Reed case? I never have said those words together. And so the fact is, it's much to do about nothing. We have employees here that we have to develop and encourage and do things, and I do that for tons of our employees.
Do you feel that you were inappropriately drawn into this?
Thank you.
That case is over, and we've got a lot of other stuff to talk about. I have nothing to do with Karen Reed. I was in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, well, he lied because now we found out Alan Jackson filed this letter, and here's what was found in the letter. I'm actually going to review the letter for you guys before we hear from what Michael Cox had to say in response to this letter from AJ. Check this out.
Developments in the aftermath of the Karen Reed case. Investigative reporter Ted Daniel joining us now. Ted, as we first reported just 30 minutes ago, this has to do with Boston police.
Rachel, 25 Investigates has a copy of a letter Karen Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, sent to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and the head of the Post Commission. The letter is scathing. In it, Reed's defense team calls out the head of the Boston Police Department.
I have nothing to do with Karen Reed. Matter of fact, I didn't even know this person was associated with the Karen Reed.
The letter talks about comments Commissioner Michael Cox made to reporters about Reed and then Boston police officer Kelly Dever, who testified in Reed's retrial. Dever spoke about a meeting she had with Cox prior to her testimony.
Saying a meeting with Cox, We got to find a better way. Either way.
Cox was asked about all of this in July.
I didn't know she was even associated with that case. So, I don't know. I was struck, like, what do I have to do with the Karen Reed race? I never had said those words together. And so the fact is, it's much to do about nothing.
Jackson's letter.
Okay, so we're going to get into Jackson's letter. So that's basically the breakdown. And I want to reread this letter for y'all because it's just so good. It's so good what Alan Jackson said. And if you missed it, you're in for a treat. And we're going to get into what Michael Cox had to say in response shortly. What did AJ say? He wrote this to the mayor and the director. This is absolutely amazing. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox has been caught in a lie, and not a small one. On July 10th of 2025, Commissioner Cox publicly denied any connection to the Karen Reed case or to Officer Kelly Dever, as he said. He was asked about the allegation that he met with Dever before she was called to testify in the first Reed trial in 2024, and he told her to do the right thing. In his unequivocal denial, Michael Cox said what we heard from him before. I'm not going to repeat it because y'all just heard it twice. AJ goes on to say those statements were false, patently false. Commissioner Cox, the head of the Boston Police Department, actually asked, what do I have to do with the Karen Reed case? What? The answer is obvious. One of his officers was dead, murdered, and the victim's body was discovered in the front lawn of another Boston police officer. For the commissioner to suggest that he had nothing to do with this case or with that case defies both logic and leadership. Common sense tells us he had everything to do with it. Newly obtained evidence proves that Cox knowingly misrepresented his involvement. On February 22nd of last year, the FBI's Boston field office sent Commissioner Cox an email explicitly referencing Dever and the Reed investigation. So he lied. Michael Cox lied. The email from Assistant Special Agent in Charge Stephen Kelleher said to Commissioner Cox this. Just a reminder, the documents were released to the DA's office late last night. The officer we spoke about is Kelly Dever. Guess what happened the next day? The very next day, on February 23rd, 2024 at 11 a.m., Michael Cox's official calendar lists a meeting with Officer Kelly Dever. Is it a coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. Exactly as Dever would later testify and Cox would deny. The timeline is indisputable. Cox televised claimed that he had nothing to do with Karen Reed and that he didn't even know the person Kelly Dever was associated with the Karen Reed case was a bold-faced lie. One now disproven by documentary evidence originating from the Federal Bureau of Investigation itself. The FBI said, hey man, we're still trying to figure out what happened to John O'Keefe. Y'all go ahead and have this email. As head of law enforcement agency, Commissioner Cox is an officer pursuant to the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 6E, Section 1. When a police commissioner lies about his own contacts with the FBI and with meeting with an implicated officer, he forfeits the credibility and integrity his oath requires. That is the very definition of a Brady-Giglio violation. Under Brady versus Maryland and Giglio versus the United States, prosecutors have an affirmative duty to disclose any evidence of dishonesty by a government witness or official in every case where the official might either testify or influence the testimony or evidence provided by others. Commissioner Cox now fits squarely within this category. And Alan Jackson's right. We can see it for our own eyes. And if Michael Cox wants to deny that, we've got bigger issues. Accordingly, Commissioner Cox must be referred for immediate inclusion on the Brady list maintained by the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. In addition, the Post Commission must initiate a full disciplinary review for dishonesty, lack of candor, and conduct unbecoming an officer under Department Policy 102, which mandates that employees shall conduct themselves at all times, both on and off duty, in such a manner as to reflect most favorably on the department. Yikes. This is not a political issue. It is a question of credibility and public trust. Not only that, but it's a question of, is Boston going to get anything right? We've got state troopers, the commissioner, local Canton PD. I mean, we're going to be talking about Sandra Birchmore later. The whole thing is a mess, man. When Boston's top law enforcement officer lies about his own knowledge of a case under federal scrutiny, the stain spreads across the entire system. Accountability cannot stop at the commissioner's door. The people of Massachusetts deserve law enforcement leaders who tell the truth, not those who hide behind it. In light of the documented evidence now in the public record, there is only one reasonable course. Add Commissioner Cox to the Brady list, open an immediate post inquiry, and this man needs to be fired. I said AJ didn't say that. AJ didn't say that. I'm gonna say it because that's what he meant. Michael Cox, the commissioner, has had enough. He finally responded to what Alan Jackson said in this letter. You guys are gonna get to hear it from him yourself. Check this out.
Meantime, Karen Reed's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, sent Mayor Wu a scathing letter calling on Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox to be placed on Boston's Brady list. Now, the Brady list is used by prosecutors to track police officers who have engaged in misconduct or have credibility issues. Here's what the commissioner had to say that you won't hear on any other station.
But what I need, it's not to be asked this question ever again, because it hasn't pertained to anything to do with the police department.
He said, stop asking me. Why are you guys asking me this again? Poor Michael Cox. Yeah, we're going to ask you if you lied, sir. You lied. You got caught. Either AJ's lying or you're lying. And I highly doubt that an email we've been able to see from the FBI, from their local office right there in Boston, is fabricated. Maybe he had a false memory, right, guys? Maybe he was thinking, oh, I met with Dever before and not after they contacted me. That's probably what it is. Maybe he got some insight from Kelly.
On any other station.
But what I need, it's not to be asked this question ever again, because it hasn't pertained to anything to do with the police department. My condolences to the O'Keefe family for what they've gone through, and because we did lose the department member. But outside of that, this has nothing to do with us. And I'm
he didn't say that the first time.
Police commissioner also debunked rumors that he is stepping down before or after the election. He denied those allegations.
All right. Well, do y'all think he should? Some would say yes, that he should. Let's move on and see what they said in this article. And shout out to Boston News 25. They said the list. Karen Reed's defense attorney, Alan Jackson, sent the mayor, Michelle Wu, a scathing letter calling on Boston police commissioner, Michael Cox, to be placed on the Brady list. The list is used by prosecutors to track police officers who engage in misconduct or have credibility issues. He said, what I need is to not be asked this question ever again pertaining to anything to do with the police department. What? Again, we just heard it, but to read it makes it even crazier. He said, stop asking me about this when it pertains to the police department. Sir, you are the police department. You're Mr. Police Department. My condolences to the O'Keefe family. He finally says that and all the other BS. What do y'all think about Commissioner Michael Cox? Is he the next one to be placed on administrative leave or resign? So many people are saying, well, that doesn't mean they're fired. This whole situation is bad, and I think there's going to be more as a result of this. We're going to get into what other dominoes are falling as a result of this entire situation. Make sure y'all stay tuned for that. Michael Cox said, why are y'all so mean to me? Leave me alone. Please, mommy, make them stop picking on me. Yeah, that's a good one. The blue walls are cracking, about time, but it's sad they had to be caught in lies and cover-ups. Been going on decades. The fact that he stood there and just straight up lied. I mean, did he really just not remember? What do y'all think? Did he really just not remember that he had this entire conversation, an entire meeting with Kelly Dever? I find that hard to believe. Shout out to Cat Not Williams is in the building too. Oh my gosh. Good afternoon, everyone who's stopping by. He said, don't ask me again. I say that to the kids all the time. They hate when I say that. Oh man, our son's getting a package delivered today. He was asking me 6 times yesterday. Is it coming? Is it coming yet? Have they delivered it? Is it there? Is it going to be there? I said, boy, stop asking me. That's how Commissioner Cox sounds. All right, y'all are ready for the next topic. We're gonna keep it moving because we still have a ton to get into, and this one's gonna be really interesting. Y'all said he better resign or retire because it's only going to get worse. The whole department needs cleaned out. I mean, AJ made a great case for him being placed on the Brady list. He made a great case, and even for someone who's not an attorney, who's not a lawyer, we can pretty much see how the lies are being shown here. So let's get into what's going on with Sandra Birchmore. So we've been covering and talking about this entire Sandra Birchmore case. Very, very sad. Sandra Birchmore was involved with the police department there in Canton at a very young age. She was in the Explorers program, learning about police officers, interacting with police officers, and eventually she was taken advantage of, allegedly at a young age, 14, 15, 16, and on through her adulthood. Built a relationship with a police officer, several police officers, according to reports. And Matthew Farwell is one of the main ones who's going to be mentioned in this case because he is the one who is alleged to have deleted or ended the life of Sarah Birchmore. Not only Sarah Birchmore, but the life of her unborn child. So now we've got some recent updates after this indictment came down. We had the indictment was updated last week or over the last couple of weeks, and we saw that not only is Matthew Farwell being charged with the murder of Sandra Birchmore, but also the murder of her unborn child. And I wanted to read this to you guys real quick in case you're not up to date on what's going on here. And then we will get into what updates we're hearing now about Sandra Birchmore and her unborn child. Check this out. So Matthew Farwell faces new charge in the death of Sandra Birchmore's unborn child. A federal grand jury in Massachusetts indicted former police officer Matthew Farwell on a new charge in connection with the death of Sandra Birchmore, 23-year-old pregnant woman who prosecutors say he strangled to death in 2021. Birchmore was found dead inside her Canton apartment. Her death was initially ruled a self-deletion, but Farwell was later charged with strangling her. Farwell was previously only charged with killing a witness or a victim on Tuesday in a superseding indictment, which we covered here on the channel. If y'all didn't see that, go back and watch that video. A second count under the state's Protection of Unborn Children law was added. Good. Prosecutors allege that Farwell engaged in intercourse with Birchmore before she was 16 years old. Some reports say 14, as young as 14, at times when he was on duty as a police officer. The alleged intercourse took place over the course of several years, the prosecutor said. According to the indictment, around December of 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant and told Farwell that he was the father. On January 20th of 2021, a friend of Birchmore's called the police department and told an employee that Farwell had been having intercourse with Sandra. Yes, and by the way, Matthew Farwell, I don't know if he still is now, but at the time he was married. So Birchmore died, or her life was taken on February 1st, 2021, and prosecutors said Farwell staged the scene to make it look like she had died by self-deletion. The superseding indictment revealed for the first time that Birchmore was between 8 and 10 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. The new charge says that by allegedly killing Birchmore, Farwell thereby caused the death of the child in utero at the time the conduct took place. Farwell is scheduled to face a trial on October 5th of next year. Federal prosecutors must decide by January 20th of next year if they will seek the death penalty. Check this out from Court TV as we get more information. And actually, let me introduce this before we get into it. So now we're finding out that there has been DNA results from Sandra and her unborn child, and the DNA results are showing, or may be showing, that Matthew Farwell was not the father. It's a shocking turn of events. Here we go.
We allege that Sandra Birchmore survived years of grooming, statutory rape, and then sexual violence, all at the hands of Matthew Farwell, who was employed throughout their relationship as an officer and then detective for the Stoughton Police Department.
Welcome back to Opening Statements. I'm Julia Janae, filling in for Julie Grant this morning. Thank you for being with us. This morning, we are giving a voice to the victims as we share a stunning development that was revealed this week in the murder of 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore. DNA tests show that the former police detective who's accused of killing her did not father her unborn child. Wow. Birchmore was found dead in her Canton, Massachusetts apartment back in 2021. Her death originally ruled a suicide, but later authorities arrested Matthew Farwell for her murder, alleging Farwell had been sexually exploiting Birchmore since she was 15 years old. She had been part of the police department's youth program, Explorer program. The theory had been that Farwell allegedly killed Birchmore because she was pregnant with his child. And at the time of the murder, Farwell was married with children of his own, with a baby on the way from his wife. It's unclear if the baby's father has been identified now that it has been shown that the child that Sandra Birchmore mothered was not belonging to Farwell, the suspect in this case.
And this is the reason this is crazy, is because it's been alleged that there were other officers involved in this. Nothing has come out as far as charges yet that I'm aware of. But Amy made an interesting point about this, because my initial thought when I heard this was, well, obviously he either went over there because he thought that was his kid and he wanted to end things. He went over there to confront her about trying to reveal things. But Amy made a great point. It could also be that she told him that it wasn't his and he went over there to confront her because he was upset. That's another possibility as well. So maybe Sandra knew that it wasn't his. She told him and he was upset about it. Will we ever know? It's highly unlikely.
Case. So we're wondering, does that all change anything? Joining us now to talk about this is Claudia King, a domestic violence expert and former law enforcement officer. And we also have still with us attorney Joe Tamburino. Joe, let's first talk about the legal side of this. Could this new revelation at all impact the case against Farwell?
Yeah.
I think it would only have a slight impact, and here's why. The issue for motive is, did Farwell believe that he was the father of the child? Did he think that obviously as soon as she gives birth, the jig is up and everything's going to come out about their relationship? Everything's going to come out about he was supposedly charged with that he's been having sex with her since she was approximately 15, 16 years of age. So it is a factor in the case, but I don't really think it's going to change the prosecution much.
Claudia, can we talk about how this even happens? It took 3 years before Farwell was even arrested. This was originally ruled a suicide. What's the process for police in extracting DNA from an unborn child?
It's a great question.
Yeah, so it would definitely be something that would happen during the autopsy, most likely, and they would pull that DNA, whether it would be tested immediately or to be held to be tested at a later time. And then they would have compared that with Farwell's DNA to determine if he was the father. Like you, I'm not sure if they tested other people's DNA to determine who is the father or if they just determined that he is not the father. So I don't know where we're at with that side of the process.
And Claudia, just a follow-up, how do you think this impacts Farwell's case, or how police would have looked at him if they had known about the DNA early on? Does it change anything? Because we do have that surveillance video of someone who appears to be him going into her apartment around the time of what initially was thought that she took her own life, and now it has been ruled a murder.
Yeah, that video is huge. Absolutely. If that didn't exist, we might be in a different place. And, you know, I agree that this revelation about the DNA may not have a big impact because it does come down to what the defendant believed, but it gives them a little kernel of hope that maybe now they have an alternate suspect that they can point to. I don't think that's going to work, but it's probably the only Hail Mary that they have at this point.
Joe, talking about state of mind, we know there was that text message that Sandra sent to Farwell where she was elated about having a child with him. This picture here, congrats, we are going to be parents. It's something that no doubt the defense in this case, I mean, not the defense, rather the Commonwealth in this case is going to be using, and the defense is going to have to combat when they talk about what was in his mind.
This is crazy, man.
That's correct. And this is going to bring up another legal issue, because I'm sure the defense is going to object that this is completely hearsay. I mean, she is the decedent. She's not here for trial, obviously. But I'm sure what the Commonwealth is going to argue is that this is completely an effect on the listener, meaning what she said had X, Y, and Z effect on the defendant, Mr. Farwell. So, yeah, that is going to be a crucial piece of evidence, because one of the things that the prosecution is going to argue is this is what set all of the things in motion that led to her being murdered.
Yeah, Claudia, this is one of those cases that has been spoken of.
I want to know personally, when was that text message sent in relation to him going over to her apartment? Because it seems and appears that Sandra thought that it was Matthew's kid by the text messages he sent. So now finding out that it wasn't, what the heck is going on here? Did he maybe know it wasn't his?
In the same breath with Karen Reed, because of the locality, because it involves police officers, Sandra Birchmore herself from the Canton area, and we have this, the Stoughton Police Department that was investigated for not just Farwell exploiting Birchmore, but potentially other issues that were similar. Talk about that part of it when it comes to this case and what that could even be like for a jury pool for Farwell.
Not going to be great.
Yeah, it's definitely going to make the jury pool aspect difficult. You know, I think it's going to be one of those cases that everybody's familiar with. And it's unfortunate that this small area has what seems to be several police officers acting in a manner that they shouldn't. But what's fortunate is that it's coming to light, so that now the Commonwealth has the opportunity to not only get justice for Sandra Birchmore, but also hopefully these departments can make changes going forward for the good of the entire area and those communities that they serve.
Claudia King, domestic violence expert, we appreciate your time. I know we have to say goodbye to you, but thank you for being on. Joe is going to be back in our 9 o'clock hour, so stand.
Wow, what do y'all think about this crazy turn of events? And there's going to be a lot more questions when it comes to who is actually the father, was actually the father of this child. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat. Yeah, and they try. Shout out to y'all for being here. We've got 1,000 of you in the building. I hate in that last hearing we saw, they tried to paint her as the aggressor. It's just disgusting, man. She passed away thinking it was his. Who knows? We won't ever know. Maybe she knew it wasn't his and maybe she was trying to make him jealous. I don't know. We just don't know what was going on. Maybe she did think it was his. Oh, man, absolutely sad. Very, very sad. Very terrible. And we're going to keep up to date on it. You know, I know they're focusing on the jury pool and trying to keep certain things out of the media, I guess you could say, but we're going to keep talking about it here because I don't think there's enough coverage on this case. And I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it. I think once it goes to trial next year, really 11 months from now, we'll start to see more about that as well. It could have been the actual father that did it. We need to see the evidence. Yeah, I mean, he was walking innocent until proven guilty. Y'all know what we believe on this channel, but there's video of him. There's a lot of evidence showing Sandra was alive. That person walks into the apartment. Sandra's phone shows that she's most likely no longer alive and breathing. That person leaves, and here we are. And there's a lot of evidence that we've seen that actually ties Matthew Farwell to being the one who committed that crime. But again, we'll see how the evidence plays out. Crazier things have happened. And it's possible that Matthew Farwell is innocent. This is crazy to think, but it is possible. All right. Thank y'all again. Thank you to all 1,000 of you that are in here. Can y'all please like the video if you haven't yet? It looks like 70% of you have liked the video. Can y'all please like the video? Likes are free. I'm going to keep begging because it takes less than a second to do and it helps us out a lot. We've got another topic for you. Karen Read. The Karen Read trial is the gift that keeps on giving. Now, obviously, rest in peace to John O'Keefe. I'm not excited or happy that this trial even happened. I wish it had never happened because this man not only lost his life, not only did his family lose a son and a brother, but we still don't know who killed John O'Keefe. But when it comes to more information coming out about the corruption surrounding this investigation into Karen Read, we're finding out more and more and more now. And now we have an update here from Mass Live out there in Boston talking about what could be seen in this federal investigation. There's so much here. It's absolutely crazy. Y'all check this out. This is breaking, just dropped less than 24 hours ago. And they say the Karen Read federal investigation impacts more cases than previously thought. Could it be Michael Proctor involved in this because of the text messages that came out? Let's see. Norfolk County prosecutors reviewed confidential materials turned over from the federal government's investigation of the Karen Read case for evidence that could benefit defendants in 19 criminal cases, court records show. It remains unclear if prosecutors distributed the federal materials across all 19 cases, some of which have already gone to trial. In 12 of the 19 cases, prosecutors filed protective orders for federal grand jury materials, suggesting they either had to turn over or plan to share some documents. This is wild. The list of all 19 cases was revealed in a court order filed last week in the Brian Walsh case. Norfolk Superior Court Judge Peter Krupp ordered the federal government not to destroy any materials it turns over to the state prosecutors during the Read investigation. The order was entered a day before local prosecutors returned the tranche of documents turned over to them back to the feds. We know Proctor's emails, texts, images, voice recordings were all included in that, which is one of the reasons why it's speculated that our guy, Mr. Good, Sergeant Good, can we call him Sergeant? I guess he's still a sergeant. Sergeant Good was placed on administrative leave with pay because they got this information and they saw there was some things that didn't look great. State prosecutors first gave notice to the possible return of destruction of the material in July. A federal court order required the district attorney's office to dispose of the material 30 days after the end of the Read case, which concluded with her acquittal on June 18th. The order was eventually extended to a deadline of October 31st. A series of hearings on the issue were held before Crump, but the hearings only addressed 5 cases, those of Bianca Ciancio, Giovanni Del something. I'm not going to say those because I'm going to ruin the names. We had Sean Johnson, Miles King, we've talked about, and Brian Walsh, we talked about in passing here as well. All but Bianca are charged with murder. And y'all said Judge Corrupt. In the remaining 14 cases, all but 2 defendants are charged with murder. The exact contours of the federal investigation are not known, but multiple witnesses who testified in the Read trial were summoned to appear before a federal grand jury, including former Massachusetts State Trooper Michael Proctor. It was alleged that some of the Alberts, some of the McCabe's were going to be called as well. I think from what I remember, some of them didn't end up showing up, but it was told they were summoned and said, hey, you might have to come and talk to us. When Proctor, who was fired in March, testified before the federal grand jury, he was asked about the failure to conduct a proper investigation in the Read case, according to a lawyer representing Brian Walsh. Much of the information lawyers sought to access from the federal investigation concerned Proctor. Shocker. Attorney Rosemary S., because I mess up her name, she's representing Miles King in this, and she actually represents another case as well that involved Proctor. She said that there are 3 different categories of information she and other lawyers sought access to. Those are searches performed on Proctor's work phone, searches on his personal phone, and whatever else the government turned up during its investigation into Karen Reed's case. That's going to be a lot of information. The third category would include a grand jury material. Proctor's role in the 19 cases affected by the federal investigation is unclear. He was the lead investigator in Miles King's case, but played a less prominent role in others like Brian Walsh. Records show the prosecutors sought protective orders for material taken from either Proctor's personal or work phone in all but 2 of the cases, and they're going to be able to see that. In any criminal case, prosecutors have an obligation to disclose any material that could benefit a defendant, including, for example, evidence that harms the credibility of a law enforcement officer, which Michael Proctor doesn't need any help in that area. But prosecutors also turned over material in a case that went to trial and ended in a conviction, so somebody may be getting out of jail. Jack Liu, a retired Superior Court judge, explained that the prosecutors were likely seeking to protect the constitutional rights of the convicted defendant. That makes perfect sense. They are likely enabling the defense for the case that ended in a conviction to consider the true value of what criminal lawyers call Brady material. We've heard this used so many times on this channel. Liu said, referencing the landmark Supreme Court case, established the requirement to turn over information benefiting defendants. We've seen even in the Y&W Melly trial, because there was a Brady issue, there was a mistrial, which is crazy. We saw it even in another trial, AJ Scott, I believe. There was something going on there with the Brady material. They didn't disclose information about where someone was seated in the car. The defense didn't give that to the prosecution. Mistrial. Taken together, the recent disclosures appear to show that Proctor could remain a central figure in many criminal cases, even after being fired from the state police. We talked about this, and this is the first thing that I mentioned when we were covering what happened to Proctor initially and these 13 years worth of emails and iCloud data being brought to light. It's going to be bad. It's going to be so bad. I would see defense lawyers taking Trooper Proctor at a part of every case he is involved in. I'd be shocked if they did not, said Liu, an adjacent family member at Boston College Law and New England Law. Proctor's involvement is like a freebie for defense lawyers. And this is exactly what we said. We talked about this. This is Michael Proctor's worst nightmare. And if he thought he was getting his job back, his career's over. We've got even more about the Karen Reed case. Y'all check this out from Boston 25 when it comes to, again, more information coming out as a result, potentially, of Michael Proctor's data. This is why.
$1 a month in taxpayer money. That's how much the Massachusetts State Police spends to track troopers on the road. The GPS system is supposed to boost transparency and accountability, but 25 Investigates found it can be defeated with the flip of a switch. Here's investigative reporter Ted Daniel.
Here we go.
We begin this story with a name you're likely familiar with, Michael Proctor. He's the former state police detective fired for conduct revealed in Karen Reed's first trial. I started looking into state police GPS tracking after learning how Proctor stayed off the radar with his.
Yes, you guys heard this right. Michael Proctor was manipulating police equipment so he wouldn't be tracked. Boston's finest here.
Michael Proctor was fired for his texts about Karen Reed and for what he did on an overtime shift where he was making time and a half.
You also investigated Michael Proctor for this allegation of drinking on duty, correct? I did.
Proctor and Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert drove to the Cape in Proctor's unmarked cruiser. While investigating a cold case, they stopped for cold beers at Treehouse Brewery in Sandwich, and then dinner and more drinks at a restaurant in Hanover on the way home. Proctor's cruiser was equipped with a hardwired GPS tracker. State police began installing the devices in all of their vehicles in 2019. The initial cost, $225,000.
So I believe that this is an important step forward for the department, an important resource for the department.
Then Colonel Christopher Mason touted it as an accountability tool following the overtime fraud scandal that rocked the agency in 2018.
So we'll now have the ability to track historical time and attendance.
25 Investigates filed a public records request for Proctor's GPS data on the day he went to the Cape with Kevin Albert. If you go by the report, Proctor drove a total of 8 seconds that day and never left his hometown of Canton. The rest of his travels were never recorded. With a flip of a switch, he was able to turn his tracker off.
And fair to say you found no violation or misconduct in that respect?
Correct.
Michael, would you like to make any comment? Proctor was never disciplined for turning off his vehicle locator because he was authorized to.
You can't shut your radio off, so why would you shut that off?
Dennis Galvin is a retired state police major and president of the Massachusetts Association for Professional Law Enforcement. There are roughly 3,000 state police vehicles with GPS locators on the road. 25 Investigates found 418 of them have a kill switch. An agency spokesperson says tracking can only be disabled with a supervisor's permission, and only in sensitive investigations where location data can put people at risk. We asked Galvin about that.
You could wind up disclosing information about critical witnesses or even informants and things like that. And those are things that it would be in the department's interest to make sure that weren't available.
But the switch can be abused. A state police internal affairs report from 2021 says then Trooper Dwayne Correa had his gun stolen out of his unmarked cruiser following a night of drinking in Providence. The report.
Who's work on the movie? Is it going to be Ben Affleck and Matt Damon that are working on this movie? Because this is the wildest thing I've ever heard. What is going on in Boston? What's going on in Massachusetts in general, in Canton, in Norfolk County? I mean, some of these stories you hear are insane. A police officer was drunk, had his issued gun in the car, and it was stolen because he was out drinking.
Report says Correa disabled his tracker to conceal his whereabouts from his supervisors.
I think there's a management obligation here to make sure that there's compliance.
State police denied our request for a list of all the vehicles where tracking can be shut off, calling it detrimental to the security and safety of uniformed members.
Of course.
A state police spokesperson tells me newly appointed Colonel Jeffrey Noble recently increased oversight on the small number of requests to temporarily disable the system to protect the personal safety of troopers, victims, and witnesses.
They said, hey, my bad. My bad, guys. We'll make sure we check that a little bit more often. Hey, Vinny, you got your tracker on? All right, have a good day.
And state police say that GPS data is cross-referenced when reviewing payroll. For 25 Investigates, I'm Ted Daniel.
How is this a real place? This cannot be a real place. I'm going to leave it to y'all. Let me know what you think about this in the comments in the chat. I will put everything I own on the fact that this is not the last time we're going to hear about something as a result of what Michael Proctor had going on. Wow. 11,000 of y'all in the building. I cannot believe this is real. It's still... It is mind-blowing to me that not really that this was happening, because people are gonna people and there's gonna be corruption everywhere, but that it was just happening on such a large scale. And this is just, again, the tip of the iceberg. We have no idea what all was going on. It's scary to think that this was happening on a regular basis. Either way, thank y'all for being here, man. Thank you so much to the 11,000 of you that are in the building. We've actually got a new trial we're going to look at and get into. We're going to get into the opening statements here and see what's going on with this. I don't know how many of y'all have heard of this Latoshia Daniels trial. Shout out to Amy for mentioning this to me, but we're going to start talking about it. We're going to look at opening statements And I want you all to let me know if this is maybe something that we should cover and look at the trial as it goes on. Give me a second. I got to get some of my cough deterrent and we'll go ahead and get right into it. So we're going to start checking out what's going on with Latoshia Daniels. Latoshia Daniels is accused of deleting a pastor. This trial is absolutely insane. It's moving along a lot quickly, and we're going to get into opening statements here from the state. But shortly, I want to give you guys a little bit of background, what's going on with Latoshia Daniels and why is she here in the first place? Check this out.
Now, new at 6, a murder trial begins for a woman accused of killing a Memphis pastor.
Latoshia Daniels is charged with the shooting that killed Brodus Perry and wounded his wife. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Stephanie Skurlock.
And I'm Greg Hirsch. Today, jurors heard from Perry's wife. WRG's Raven Copeland has more on today's testimony.
Tuesday, a jury heard opening statements in the first-degree murder trial of Latoshia Daniels. She's accused of fatally shooting Brodus Perry, a Memphis pastor, at his Collierville apartment in 2019. The prosecution says Daniels committed the crime because she was having an affair with Perry, while the defense argues that she acted out of emotion.
They left Little Rock and moved here. That resulted in the relationship between the defendant and Mr. Perry became strained.
She did not think about in that moment. She broke. And she did shoot Brodus Perry. While screaming, "He broke my heart."
Oh, dang. Okay, so it sounds like they're not denying that she did this. Is their defense a crime of passion? So this is not one where she's innocent until proven guilty. Her defense is saying she was upset. Okay, yikes.
The jury also heard testimony from Tabitha Archie, who was married to Perry at the time of the deadly shooting. She testified that Daniels unexpectedly showed up at their apartment, but she let her in because she knew her. On the stand, Archie said that when Perry arrived, the three drank and talked for a few hours before Daniels got up to leave. It was then when investigators say she shot Perry multiple times.
We're on the second floor, and I'm like, right at the steps when I turn back and I'm like, okay, no one's behind me. And then I see her pull out her gun and start shooting.
Archie testified that she ran to a neighbor's home for help, and when she returned to her apartment, Daniels shot her in the shoulder. Trial resumes Wednesday morning at 9:30. Reporting for your news leader, Raven Copeland, WREG News Channel 3.
Okay, so that's the story there. We've got a little bit more of a dramatic and detailed intro here from Court TV, and then we're going to get right into the opening statements from the state. Here we go.
Not only have we experienced the death of Brodus Perry to violence.
On April 4th, 2019, police respond to a shooting about 30 minutes east of Memphis. Once they arrived, they found Pastor Brodus Perry with several gunshot wounds and his wife Tabitha shot in the left shoulder.
The rumors swelling around his murder leave us shocked and shaken.
According to the police affidavit, Tabitha let former acquaintance Latoshia Daniels into the apartment. Once Perry arrived home, he and Daniels spoke for several minutes. As she was leaving, she pulled out a handgun and began shooting, hitting Perry 5 times and telling him, quote, "You broke my heart." Police arrived as Daniels was reloading her gun. Police shot Daniels and she was taken to the hospital for her injuries, where she attempted to get away from police. She faces charges of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, resisting arrest, and assaulting a police officer. She has pleaded not guilty. As far as a motive, reports say that Tabitha, the wife, told police she was unaware of an affair between her husband and the suspect, but she believed Daniels' actions suggested it's a possibility.
Okay, well, not looking great for Latoshia, but hey, innocent until proven guilty. Let's go ahead and get into opening statements from the state. This is going to be one of the shortest opening statements from the state I've ever seen. In Tennessee, I'm going to tell y'all right now, they do not play. We've reviewed and we've seen the trial in Tennessee, and they get them in and out of here. They don't play around. Here's what the state had to say about Latoshia Daniels.
Brodus Perry was a pastor of a church. He was a husband. And he was a man who enjoyed life. He was 36 years old at the time of his death. He wasn't perfect. He had flaws, much like a lot of people have flaws.
Fair.
In the fall of 2016, he was one of the pastors at a church in Little Rock. He knew the defendant through his role at that church. She was a member of the church, and I believe she was a leader of a life group in that church. She was going through a divorce or had recently divorced. They talked about that. A sexual relationship between the two of them began sometime around February of 2017.
Oh, uh-oh.
And you'll hear that that relationship went on until sometime the end of 2018 or maybe even going into 2019. Went on for several years. Toward the end of 2018, I believe it was around October, Mr. Perry and his wife took a job, well, Mr. Perry took a job. He and his wife moved to Collierville in Shelby County because he took a job at Mississippi Boulevard Church here, also working as, I think, an executive pastor at that church. So not the senior pastor or the preaching pastor, but he was working with that church here in Shelby County. So they left Little Rock and moved here. That resulted in the relationship between the defendant and Mr. Perry became strained. He decided he didn't want to be in that relationship anymore. They lived away from each other. I don't know the reasons that he decided that, but he did.
Wow.
When they moved back here. On April the 4th of 2019, the defendant left Little Rock. She stopped at a gun store in Sherwood, Arkansas, where she purchased a Ruger 9mm handgun, and she purchased ammunition. And she drove the 2.5 or 3 hours from there to Collierville, Tennessee, where she showed up somewhere 9, 10 o'clock that night at Mr. and Miss Perry's residence. Mr. Perry wasn't there, but Miss Perry let her in. And they sat and talked for a while until Mr. Perry came in. Miss Perry knew the defendant from when they were in the church together in Little Rock. In fact, the two of them played tennis once a week. Miss Perry considered herself to be friends with the defendant. And so when she showed up at the door, she let her in and they talked. The defendant waited there until Brodus Perry got home. They talked for a few minutes more, and she said, well, I'm going to leave. Don't want to bother y'all anymore. Mr. and Miss Perry were about to walk her out the door when the defendant pulled the 9mm handgun that she had purchased 3 or 4 hours earlier.
Dang.
And she shot Mr. Perry multiple times. The medical examiner will testify they pulled 5 bullets out of his body. She also shot Tabitha Perry as she was kneeling beside her husband, trying to get him to quit, trying to help him, and trying to get the defendant to quit shooting.
Wow.
She was still on the scene with the gun when the police department arrived. You'll hear that the bullets that the medical examiner recovered from Mr. Perry's body matched the Ruger 9mm that she purchased from the gun store in Sherwood, Arkansas.
Well, and his wife
CBI,
was there.
the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, analyzed those, and those matched. You'll hear that the shell casings 7, I believe, recovered from the apartment were fired from the Ruger that she purchased from the gun store in Sherwood, Arkansas. There was a bullet recovered from the scene at the apartment that also was fired from the gun that she bought from the sporting goods store in Sherwood, Arkansas. You'll see video from the sporting goods store in Sherwood, Arkansas that shows the defendant going into the store, purchasing the ammunition and the gun, and leaving. You'll see the credit card that she purchased it with and the receipts where the last 4 of the credit card match, showing the date and the time that she purchased that handgun.
I don't know.
She had all kind of time to think about what she was doing. At the end of the proof, we're going to ask you to find her guilty as indicted in counts 1, 2, and 3 of the indictment. Thank you.
Y'all, that is it. That is all the state had for opening statements. They said, hey, listen, y'all. She shot him. We have the bullets. The wife was there. We got an eyewitness. The wife got hit too. He's dead. Can we wrap this up? I got a tea time Friday at 5. So let me know what y'all think in the comments in the chat. Wow. We're going to go ahead and get right into opening statements for the defense. As you can imagine, they're going to be a little bit more in depth. So let's go ahead and get into that if y'all are ready for it. And let me know what y'all think so far about this trial in the comments in the chat. Is this something we should follow on a day-by-day basis? It's getting interesting. Let's go ahead and get into opening statements for the Latoshia Daniels trial. Now that we know everything that's going on with Latoshia allegedly murdering this pastor and hitting and shooting his wife in there as well. Here goes what the defense has to say. This will be interesting.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't know how you defend this one.
Latoshia Daniels is a woman who has spent her life surrounded by men who hurt women.
Like,
not all of those were physically abusive. Some were emotionally abusive. But from a very young age, Latoshia listened at night with her 2 little sisters as her father beat her mother.
What's it have to do with the pastor?
Her father was a minister in the church, well respected in the community. Being his daughter meant something in her town. She knew she could never tell anyone the truth about what happened behind closed doors. When Latoshia was 17 years old in high school, she got pregnant.
Dang.
And her father mandated that she marry. So at 17 years old, she married a man named Rodney. She and Rodney were married for a while, and then he eventually strayed in the relationship. She caught him cheating on her, and she was devastated. And that was the first time that Latoshia tried to commit suicide. She felt like she had failed her marriage, kids, her father, her family, and that they would all be better off without her. She tried to take her life. The ongoing struggle with mental health would continue throughout Latoshia's life. Her next marriage was to a man named Brian. Brian was not physically abusive. But very shortly after Latoshia and Brian got married, he completely shut her out emotionally. When she would come home, she would sit in the parking lot or the driveway and cry. And she knew when she walked into that house, a house that is supposed to be a home filled with love and filled with comfort and acceptance, she would get her husband would sit on the couch and watch TV and then sit on the couch. And that went on for 8 years. And at a certain point,
What's that got to do with the
Latasha
pastor?
found herself so starved for love and for attention that she sought out counseling. She tried to get her husband to go with her to marriage counseling. And he wouldn't. So Latasha decided that she needed spiritual guidance. She needed to know that if she was going to be getting divorced, that she could find that amends with God for another marriage family. Now, Brodus Perry was an assistant pastor at St. Mark's Baptist Church in Little Rock, one of the biggest Baptist churches in Little Rock. He was one of the pastors that selected, among the thousands of church members, selected about 40 people to be life group leaders. Latasha was one of those people selected. And the group that she was in was one of about 7 or 8 people that Brodus Perry was directly over.
Here we go.
And they had a very close, tight-knit group. Brodus Perry took very particular interest in his group. And while Latasha was struggling, seeking this spiritual covering, she reached out to Pastor Perry because she trusted him. She felt like she could be safe talking to him. She did not seek him out for a relationship.
Nah, okay.
They met, had a counseling session where Latasha poured her heart out to him for almost 2 hours in tears, talking about the complete emotional neglect, the lack of love, the lack of attention, and how it made her feel in the marriage that she was currently in. And Pastor Perry listened, but seemed distracted to Latasha. Several weeks had passed and she was still struggling with these feelings, and so she reached out for a second session. And when she talked to Pastor Perry at the beginning, she said, I appreciate you meeting with me, but I don't understand why when we met, you had your hands shoved in your jacket the whole time I was talking to you. Pastor Perry told her that he was doing that so that he could maintain his professionalism.
Oh.
As she was pouring her heart out to him, all he could do was think about sleeping with her. And when this counseling session started, within minutes, he grabbed her chair, pulled her to him, and began kissing her. And this woman who had been so starved for love and affection was finally receiving that. She did not seek it out, but she was receiving. And that session that was supposed to be counseling her through her divorce became the first time that Latasha Daniels and Brodus Perry had sex. Immediately after that, Brodus Perry and Latasha started a relationship. But there were rules to be in a relationship with Brodus Perry. She immediately had to download the Confide app. Confide is similar to Snapchat, where you open the message, you read it, and it disappears, and it's gone forever. That was the only means of communication that she was allowed to have with him, through that app. Brodus Perry traveled with the church. Pastors sometimes had their trips. Church groups had their trips. Latasha was to go on those trips. She had to pay her own way. He could not have his credit card tied with her flights. She was expected to be there. And while they were on trips, they would stay together in a hotel room. If Latasha was inside the hotel room, she was required to be naked. No matter what. She was inside that hotel room. And if she had the audacity to put on clothing inside a hotel room, he would get angry with her. He went so far as
what you think was happening? What type of time?
To say, if we are ever together and I am suffering from a medical emergency, Do not call 911. You call Pastor Poynter. He will get me help. You don't do it. You get as far away from me as you need to get for nobody to find out about this. By the end of their relationship, one of the rules was that Latasha was required to answer him with either yes, sir, or no, sir. Brodus had a lot of rules. And Latasha had fallen so deeply in love with him after being so starved in her past relationship that she was willing to follow him. She was willing to do whatever he wanted her to do because he loved her. She loved him. There was a lot of guilt and a lot of shame around this relationship, though, because she knew that he was married. Now, she was in the process of a divorce, but she knew Tabitha. Brodus was interested in a unique lifestyle, something called ethical non-monogamy. Basically, what ethical non-monogamy teaches is that as long as everyone in the relationship is informed and honest, that even from a marriage, you can have extramarital relationships. Brodus told Latasha this is a lifestyle that he wanted, and that Tabitha would allow him to have it. She was willing to let him engage in this ethical non-monogamy.
What? How dang?
And Brodus told Latasha, you and Tabitha will be sister wives. You will live with us. We will have a life together. I just haven't told her, but I will. But I will. And so despite the shame and the guilt from this relationship, Latasha proceeded to be there. As part of this ethical non-monogamy, Brodus had a chat group, and it all started around this book that is kind of the guidebook for ethical non-monogamy. The book is called The Ethical Slut. Brodus made Latasha read that book because it outlined what he was allowed to do.
Oh my.
In the big group chats about this book, Brodus developed this kind of side chat that was with him and two other women, where they discussed their ethical non-monogamy. Hours and hours and hours, Brodus talked to them via video about how Tabitha was on board with his ethical non-monogamy. So much that when he said, okay, I want to do this, Tabitha said, you should do it with Latasha. She's your person. Let me talk to her. I'll break the ice. Tabitha selected Latasha, is what Brodus was telling the other women in this group. And that Tabitha was completely on board because he was being so honest and so open and so truthful with her, that he was so honest that not only could he have Latasha, he could have another woman too. He talked about these conversations that Tabitha would have with Latasha, the role that she played in their relationship.
Wow.
It's true. Tabitha had no idea that her husband was in this relationship for 2 years, despite the fact that he was telling these women that she was completely on board and involved. And despite the fact that he was telling Latasha that she was on board with his lifestyle and that it would be okay. They would all be able to do this together. And so the relationship goes on. They take trips. Latasha buys some lavish gifts. They are happy. They see each other almost every day. They start drinking bourbon together. Start going to cigar lounges together. They start biking together, join a biking group. They would run together. Full relationship.
Yeah.
That Latasha thought Tabitha had sanctioned. You know, she didn't know that. And towards the end of 2018, Brodus Perry got offered a position at Mississippi Boulevard Baptist Church here in Memphis.
Wow.
It's a big church here in Memphis. It's a prestigious church to be a pastor at here in Memphis. And Brodus talked to Latoshia about whether he should accept this offer, and she said, yes, this is a huge opportunity, absolutely. She organized a going away party for him and Tabitha. After
That's so
Brodus
weird.
moved in October of 2018, he would come back to Little Rock. He still had his orthodontist in Little Rock, so he would come back to get his braces tightened. And when he would come in town, he and Latoshia would pick up where they would go. But things did start to change in the way Brodus was treating her. And around March the 15th, Brodus came in town and texted Latoshia, I'm here at the hotel, come meet me. So she went. And on this day, she had the audacity to be wearing clothes when we walked in. He got very angry with her. And she apologized. And they proceeded to have sex. This was not a day that they made love. This is a day that he had sex with her. He was demeaning and degrading, borderline aggressive with her, which is something that he had never done before. Pulling her hair, shoving himself into her mouth, hurting her, slapping her. Nothing that she had ever experienced with him before. She felt so used and humiliated, broken by that experience with him, this man that she loved so much and had put so much of her life into, for him to treat her like a piece of trash. Or a product. And that became the second time that she attempted to commit suicide. The next day, she came back to the hotel room with a gun. She told him, you hurt me so bad. I want you to hurt like I hurt. And she wanted to kill herself in front of him so that he knew what it felt like to break because of somebody that you say that you love. He got the gun away from her, and they talked. Brodus always knew what to say to Latoshia to get her to do what he wanted.
Dang.
He did on this day. She did not kill herself. She was still looking. They took some time apart, still talking on the phone, but not seeing each other in person. And on April the 4th, Latoshia of 2019, Latoshia opened her Confide app and saw a message from Brodus. It said something to the effect of, our time has come to an end. And that is a good. He ended their 2-year relationship. There was supposed to be a life.
Wow.
With a disappearing pet. And Natasha, I was right to want to die. And she found herself so deep down in that dark hole that God could not reach her. She didn't think that she deserved for God to reach her. She didn't have a gun anymore because Brodus had taken hers. Around 3 o'clock that afternoon, she wrote a letter to her family and left it for them in her phone. She told them goodbye. She told them that she was sorry. She knows that they will be better without her. Her life will not. They would be better without her. Around 4 o'clock that afternoon, she didn't even take her purse with her to that gun store. She took her license and a debit card. She went and bought a gun to end her life. she had chosen a place that was of significance to her to go and commit suicide. It was in Jacksonville, Arkansas, Dawson Park. And as she was driving down the interstate, she just kept thinking, if I could just see him, if I could just talk to him, he would understand. We can be okay together. This doesn't have to happen. I need to see him one more time. Even if this is where this goes, I just need to see him one more time.
Wow.
And she looked up and saw the exit to Memphis. And she turned it. She found herself in downtown Memphis, which is a place that she is not accustomed to. And she knew, because they were such regular communicators, she knew that on Thursday nights, Brodus would be at the cigar lounge. So she went to the cigar lounge. As she was walking up, Brodus walked out. She knows her rules. You do not approach him. She's not allowed to approach him because she didn't know if he was with somebody. He had to approach her so that she knew that she could talk to him.
Yeah, he had her on the program.
So she sees him and walks directly past him and waits for him to say, Latasha. When he did that, she came back and talked to him. And they talked for a while. She was telling him how heartbroken she was. And he said, it doesn't make any sense that my wife is okay with me having other women, but my girlfriend isn't. And she said, I'll be okay with it. You can do it. If that will fix it, I will do that. We'll give you that. And just like she had so many times in this relationship with him pressuring her to get a watcher, or to have a threesome, or to engage in this ethical non-monogamy, she gave in. Because she loved him so much that she was willing to do whatever she had to do to keep him. And he said, you haven't been willing to do that so far. She said, well, you haven't even told Tabitha about this. You know, how can I think that you're going to be honest with me when you haven't even told her? And so Berta said, fine. You want to tell her? We'll go tell her. Go to my apartment. Talk to her about tennis. Tell her you're in town for a convention. I've got to run an errand to Pastor Turner's house. I'll be there soon. You go tell her. And Latasha said, no, you need to be the one to tell her. I'll be there. I'll go there. But we need to tell her together. And so Latasha went to their apartment, where she had never been before. He gave her the address. He had actually given it to her before they even moved out of Little Rock. And so Latasha arrives at this apartment complex that she's never been to at night. She's not from here. She doesn't frequent Memphis. She doesn't know the difference between downtown Memphis and Carterville. She just knows it was dark outside. And she had to walk from her car to the apartment. And as she's sitting in her car, she starts having second thoughts. And she calls Brodus. She says, are you sure we should do this? I'm scared. But she had so much hope at this point. She thought that things were finally falling into place. That they were finally going to tell Tabitha. They would finally be able to be openly and honestly together. And Brodus didn't answer. So Latasha went to the apartment, softly knocked on the door. Tabitha was inside, and she heard something but ignored it. So a couple seconds later, a little bit louder. So Tabitha gets up and goes to investigate, see who's at her door. She looks through the peephole and doesn't see anything. Talking through the door, she says, you know I'm not going to open this door unless I can see you, right? And at that point, Latasha kind of put herself into the frame of the peephole. And Tabitha says, Latasha, is that you? She opens the door, gives Tasha a hug, invites her in. And they talk about tennis, and they talk about her being in town for a conference. And they sit in the living room.
And did she shoot him?
Brodus comes home a little while later, walks in, and Tabitha texted him while she and Latasha were talking, and I've got a surprise for you. And so he walked in, and He just said that wasn't the surprise I was expecting. It seemed very distant. So he sits, kind of makes some awkward conversation with Latasha, small talk, but he won't look at her. He will not acknowledge the elephant that Latasha knows is in the room. He offers her some bourbon. She says sure. Tabitha said no because she had been drinking earlier in the day, so she didn't want any more. And Brodus poured himself some. And they chatted for a few more minutes, but Brodus really started completely ignoring Latasha there. And she saw the writing on the wall that this wasn't going to happen. He wasn't going to tell her.
Yeah, he was lying.
So she said, you know what, I'm not going to keep going. But she wanted to talk to him. She wanted to find out why. She said, Brodus, walk in my car. Southern hospitality, you're the man. You know, will you walk me to my car? He said, no, Tabitha will walk you in. She said, no, be a gentleman, walk me to my car. And he said, no, Tabitha, do it. Tab got up, started walking out. She did not even understand the enormity of that moment behind her.
Dang.
When he wouldn't even walk outside and take a moment to talk to her. She put her hands in her pocket and she felt the gun was in there and she was reaching for her keys.
Where's she going with this?
She did not think about what was happening. This was not what she came there to do. In that moment, she broke.
Sounds premeditated to me. What do y'all think? I hate interrupting opening statements, but my goodness, man, come on.
While screaming, he broke my heart. And Tabitha ran to shield him and jumped in front of him. And that is when she got struck in the shoulder. And Tabitha said to her, Latasha, you shot me. And Latasha said, no, I didn't. She said, yes, you did. You shot me. And Latasha said, I didn't mean to shoot you. And Tabitha said, just go, leave. The police are on their way. Just go. Because Tabitha, when all this started, was already outside.
Dang.
She ran to the neighbor's house, knocked on the door, and said, call 911, and then ran back in. Latasha had never threatened her, never tried to shoot her, nothing. This was a moment that broke between Latasha and Brodus. But it was not a moment of cool, calm judgment. It is not what that night was supposed to be. That night was supposed to be a start, not an end. But that night, she broke. And she slept with that every day. And it hurts her. She feels shame about what happened. To know that her hands did that. This was not judgment and election. This was a thing. And when the police came, their guns drawn, yelling at her to put down the gun, she didn't even register them. Didn't respond to them. Tabitha said that she was bringing the gun to her head, towards her mouth, not even acknowledging the police.
This is crazy.
And in assessing the situation, police determined that they should use a non-lethal round. And they shot Latasha in the chest with that non-lethal round. She was thrown to the ground. Did not. The police did not choose to use their firearms. They chose to use a non-lethal round. They actually tried to use a non-lethal round first and the gun jammed. They ran down to their car and ran back up with another non-lethal round. No other shots were fired in the entire time. This was not what this night was supposed to be.
That's it. All right. How do y'all feel about this uphill battle here? Let me know what you think in the comments in the chat. Yikes. Shout out to the gang in the building. Shout out to DeAndre over on Facebook saying, why she start whispering? Bro. Do y'all want to follow this case? Let me know. Shout out to everybody who's in here. We got 9,000 of you in the building. I'm going to let you guys go for the afternoon, but stay tuned because we've got a lot more content that's going to be dropping later on. So if you haven't yet, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any time that we go live or drop a new video. Like the video on your way out as well. And a special thank you to everyone who went the extra mile and sent in a super chat. Shout out to Les Cleaver in here, B-Mac. We had Spring Flowers as always. Tanya was up in here. My guy Stephen G showing mad love from down under. We had Mary over there becoming a new member. And of course, my awesome, amazing Amy E. The beautiful, amazing Amy E. This is going to be an interesting one. If y'all want to check it out, let me know in the comments and in the chat as well. Hope y'all have a great rest of your afternoon. As always, you know what to do. Keep growing, keep pushing, keep it classy. We gone. Peace. Shout out to Stephen G in the clutch, by the way, with the super chat. I see you, Stephen. He said, before I go, you two are on fire. Thank you, Stephen G, for the love. I appreciate you, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you.